It's 24 years since apartheid fell in South Africa, and my question tonight is, has black political power been translated into black economic power? My guests are Dr. Kenneth Meshoe of the ACDP and Mr. Siboniso Duma of the ANC. This is Chim's Talk Africa.
From Cape Town to Cairo and from Mogadishu to Dakar, this is Chim's Talk Africa. And now here's your host, Chim Onyibilanma.
Welcome there, viewers, to this edition of your show. I'm so glad you can join us, and we do have quite a lineup for you today. But before we go into the interview, I want to talk about Ethiopia. I don't know if you've been following the news, but what Mr. Aby Ahmed, the Prime Minister that was sworn in April, is doing there is really encouraging. Like I told you some weeks ago, this man is born again. But that is not really the thing I want to talk about. It's the fact that he's made changes in this hitherto police-like state. He has removed the ban on internet and on other media. He has lifted up the state of emergency that has been put there to stop protests, which of course has fizzled out now. He has released thousands of prisoners. But what is significant for me is how he has reached out in reconciliation with hitherto enemies of Ethiopia, like Eritrea.
A warm welcome for members of the first Eritrean delegation to visit Addis Ababa in almost 2 decades. They're here to discuss peace overtures by Ethiopia that have raised hopes of a breakthrough in one of Africa's most stubborn military standoffs. Ethiopian Prime Minister Aby Ahmed said earlier this month he was ready to honor all the terms of a peace deal that ended the country's 1998 to 2000 conflict. He suggested Ethiopia would be willing to give up its claim to disputed land, raising hopes of a settlement to a festering row over their common border.
Now, Eritrea, since 1993, when it gained independence from Ethiopia, soon after that, by 1998, has been at war for more than 20 years with Ethiopia. And thousands of lives has been lost, millions of dollars have been wasted in military expenses. Now, just this June, Mr. Aby Ahmed decided and said, look, we're going to accept the 2000 agreement on the disputed borders, and that solved everything. Now the two countries are reunited, commercial flights are going in between, families are coming together, and all because of leadership. Think about what good leadership in Africa can do to stop many of the meaningless wars that are going on in Africa. I mean, I'm thanking God for a leader like Mr. Aby Ahmed, and I'm excited because he's a follower of Christ, and to show the kind of example we need of political leaders. And not everything is solved in Ethiopia, but this is a good example for us. Think of how the millions of dollars that are being saved from this military expenses now can be moved to education and into infrastructures like road. Let's keep praying for Mr. Aby Ahmed and Ethiopia, which is obviously rising. Now, do you know that 63 million children in the world don't go to primary school, and over 200 million don't go to high school? In fact, the place where the dropout is highest is in North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, and the Middle East. The worst hits are girls from poor homes, where only 5% end up in high school. And we all know that education is so important for economic development. Research has shown that just 1 year of education can increase people's income by 10%. And where will people go to without good education? That's why I'm glad to tell you about School Days again. For those of you who are in South Africa, School Days, which you can see the website on the screen, is a program whereby for free, you can join for free, and by doing what you normally do, shopping in the malls where you shop and buying using the banks you normally use, you can increasingly grow bursaries towards the education of your children. I encourage you to have a look at this website. This might be something for you. Now we're going to our interview. You will love the kind of things that these two political leaders unpack. Fervent followers of Christ, yet coming from different angles on the issue of how do we move from economic, political power to economic power among the black majority in South Africa. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome, dear viewers, to this segment of your show. Like I said in the beginning, we are having two leaders here today who come from, I would say, opposing parties. But they are united in the fact that they've placed their faith in Christ. They're Christian leaders of their own rights. And I'm talking about Dr. Kenneth Meshoe, who doesn't need any introduction. He's the president of the African Christian Democratic Party, ACDP. Dr. Kenneth, you're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. Thank you.
And Mr. Duma is a leader in his church as well as a leader in ANC, the ruling party. He's also a parliamentary member in the legislature in KZN, that is KwaZulu-Natal, which is a province in South Africa. And he's here with Dr. Kenneth to talk on just looking at how far we've come in our democracy in South Africa. Mr. Duma, you are welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brother Chimney, for affording us this opportunity.
It's I feel really privileged that you will come all the way to travel down to be with us on this show. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much.
I just want to go straight into this. For Mr. Duma, for most black Africans all across the continent, sometimes they're trying to put their head around what's going on in South Africa. The reality is that blacks have more than enough political power. Both of you are political leaders of your own right, yet it seems that 24 years after, blacks don't quite have economic power. How do you, looking back at 24 years being in the ruling party, how do you try to understand this or explain this? Or do you agree with the statement anyway?
I don't agree with the statement. What has happened in the new dispensation 24 years ago, I think you all understand now that there is a legacy that was left by President Madiba, who was just assigned and given a chance, create an environment that every South African partake and participate, what was called the Rainbow Nation. In terms of, because that's what we won in '94, the political power, the political participation, the veto right and all those things. And we went further and asked why it has not happened, the transfer or the impact of economic wealth. I think the realism almost in the entire country or in South Africa and Africa at large, that when there is a process of colonialism, almost a significant minority will colonize the country. They will take the wealth of that country on their own. They will hog it. And in South Africa, I think you all understand that we were given a chance as people who are indigenous in the country, or not given a chance, we were forced to go where there is a barren land, where there's an infertile land, which is difficult when you enter the new dispensation, just like that. Let us just go to the zoom on the space. We have 122 million hectares in South Africa, which 75% is controlled by the significant minority, those who colonized us. So why you will not just going to fast track the process of economic emancipation is that the economy is still controlled by the cartels. So those are the issues. If government is trying to address the imbalance of the past, those are the issues that we're fighting for. The Mandela era passed on. Then there was Thabo Mbeki era, who tried to come and say what must be done in terms of the formulation of economic emancipation, which is always difficult. Go to the entire Africa. Ghana was freed a long time ago, but in terms of economic wealth, they are still not yet there. It means that a shift of the mindset ensure that they always participate in the issue of economy. Economy in terms of automobile, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of agriculture in our country, the food production is still in the hands of those who colonized us.
You know, I hear you very well, but as you talk about Ghana, I'm thinking of something, and I want to throw this to you because the question keeps arising in my mind that there are a lot of ANC was battered with the Christians there. Right now, there are a lot of believers like you who love the Lord passionately. Off air, you were telling me your testimony, and I know many other believers like that. So go back to Ghana. Ghana had independence. I think it was 1959, and then for many years, it just kind of crawled along until Rawlings came into power. And many Ghanaians will agree with me, no matter where you stand about Rawlings, Jerry Rawlings, there was a radical shift. And you look back before Rawlings and you say, what the problem was corruption. There was just people who had power, but who were not taking care of things. But people have said the same thing too. I know God-loving, Jesus-on-fire believers in ANC, but the claim has been that the real reason why this hasn't happened is that there's been a lot of corruption. How do you answer to that? Because here there's power in my hands, and it's not empowering, it's not pulling the guy out. So how do you answer to that issue?
I'll just accept the reality that there is corruption in the world first, then come back from the world to South Africa. In the issue of South Africa, just understand, if you've been oppressed for 352 years, then you are given a platform. And there are sunset clauses. The sunset clauses are saying that ensure that we are not going to just evacuate all the systems, the policies.
So the agreements that were made before.
The agreements that were made before.
That allowed for the
transition. We are going to keep the CEOs of the captains of industry exactly like that.
Okay.
Try by all means that you are not going to chase the business of being too antagonistic. And unfortunately, if you are saying that Udok sitting next to me, he's got 100 million, then I don't have anything. And you are saying that let us start afresh the process, but you are saying Udok will still control that means of production. Nothing will change. The corruption in the main is driven on the issue of scarcity of resources. It's true that as well in the world, when you go to power, you appropriate the build, then you realize that, okay, there are these monies that are lying around, then there will be temptation in some of the issues. That is why you created the policies that are addressing the issue.
I'll come right back to you, because I would like to find out the kind of sorting and lighting that believers in your party are doing to the party. Please bear that in mind. But Dr. Kenneth, I want to give you a chance to look at 24 years that we've had in South Africa, and just what's your own reflection on it? In terms of, we have political power, it hasn't translated well. I shouldn't say it hasn't translated in any way, because I think a lot has been done. If we're going to be honest, the RDP houses, a lot of people have houses that never had houses. The entrepreneurs who never would have been entrepreneurs before, if it was in the old system. So a lot has happened. It's just that there seems to be so much more that should have happened. Do you think so?
I must accept and acknowledge the fact that government has done many good and wonderful things. There are millions of people who did not have access to electricity, to water, that today have because of what government has done. And the era of the late Mr. Mandela that he spoke about was an era where the emphasis was on nation building and reconciliation, national reconciliation. So it is a platform that we really, really appreciate, even as the ACDP. But the issue of corruption has definitely delayed South Africa and also black people from being, for achieving economic wealth that they could have. When my brother talks about CEO of large companies, what comes to mind is that what government should be emphasizing, I think, is to train entrepreneurs, help aspiring entrepreneurs to know how to run businesses. Because if we now talk about a CEO of a company, we are talking about a business that was started by somebody else. And I don't think we will solve problems of poverty in South Africa if we want a white man to start something and then you put a black CEO. Train
So
black
rather have train the guy to start his
Right.
But that's happening already with all the initiatives, especially the present president, even when he was vice president, seemed to have emphasized a lot of that.
It's emphasized, but you don't see much of it. If you ask where are the big conglomerates? Where are the big companies that have come as a result of our own people being trained to work with their hands, to be productive, to be industrialists? I mean, these are things that are missing. The other thing that we need to think about is that our education system, that should be encouraging and teaching our young people to be properly skilled, to be employable, is failing them. Now, where in the country would you hear of a government that says they are considering making 30% the pass mark?
So we're aiming too low.
We are aiming
too low.
And as a result, when those people have passed 30%, with whom international will they compete? Will always be at the bottom of the line.
So you feel we're backwards economically because we've not empowered the education system and we've not emphasized enough or practiced enough entrepreneurship development.
The bar has to be raised rather than lowered. The bar has to be raised.
We'll go for a short break and I'll come back for your comment on that, Mr. Dube. And I want to ask, what are Christians doing? We don't just cause the darkness, we actually shine the light. Viewers, we'll go for a break now. We'll be back and we'll be talking to two leaders from the ANC and from the ACDP. Don't go away. Thank you, audience.
Do you have any opinions or comments on today's subject or any other issues in your country or around Africa? We would love for you to join the conversation. Please send us your comments by WhatsApp video, voice, or text message to the number on your screen or via Facebook, Twitter, or email. We may be able to include your text, audio, or video comment on a future show.
Welcome back, dear viewers, to the second segment of our interview with the two leaders from two key parties in South Africa. We have Dr. Kenneth Meshoe, and he's the president of the ACDP. And we have Mr. Duma, who is a leader in ANC, a parliament member in the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
Don't forget to say I'm a parliament member.
You're also a parliament member, sir. But we do appreciate your national position as the president of ACDP. Let me go back to my question. We talked about corruption.
Correct.
Christians, there are lots of, I know some beautiful children of God in ANC. What are you people doing for? You agreed with me in the first that there is that. And it's not just here, it's all over Africa. It's a big thing in Nigeria, in other parts of Africa, corruption. But we can't blame the unbeliever for being an unbeliever. What are the Christians doing about it?
In fact, let me be pedantic on the issue of us as Christians. Let us take the blame. We are the majority in South Africa, but we don't participate on what government. Like, for instance,
I'm actually talking about the Christians who are like you in leadership right there. Let's leave the Christian who is outside.
I'm coming there.
Please do.
Like, for instance, because we are lawmakers. Before the law is being passed, it must have a hearing. You must ensure that the stakeholders participate. Like, for instance, the issue of, let me be controversial a bit, on the issue of abortion law. South Africans had a chance to participate, Christians in particular. Where were they? Because you go at the level of legislature, but you still require the machinery, which are the stakeholders to make the law pass.
Who are the stakeholders? I thought it was you, the people in parliament, like him and you. And we vote for you, then you make the law.
But we don't have the law upon ourselves to regulate without the participation of public.
Of the public.
Public will always play a critical role.
So you're talking about, for example, the land issue now, where it's open to the public to comment, and people don't comment, and then it passes, and then they're shouting. That's what you're talking about.
That's what I'm talking about.
So if we don't have enough buy-in by the Christian population saying, no, we don't want this, it gets to your table, you're like, I have to go with what the people have said. Is that what's happening?
In fact, ANCs, like for instance, it's being voted by 11 million. Out of those, I think 90% are Christian people. So they should be not giving us the blank check. They must just regulate. Our vote encapsulate this. These are the things that you must address.
But I find it, difficult for you, Mr. Duma, to be placing the blame part to the people who gave you the baton to be the leader. You want to comment on that, Mr. Kenneth? still remove the position that you as a Christian leader in the parliament or wherever you are has. You've been given the power to speak as a Christian
But
voice.
here's something interesting. Here's something interesting. Even though the people may speak, government on some issues, they have their mind set. They have decided already, even when asked people to make inputs. He referred to abortion. I'll give you an example. An opinion poll was made of ANC members of parliament, whether they supported abortion or not. And about 57% of them said no.
No to abortion.
Yeah.
Okay.
And government
Still
passed
passed
it.
the law.
Why? Because there are forces outside that they had to please. Okay? So the issue of government making decisions, well, whereas there are times when they are influenced by the public, at times it's just smoke screen. They've already made up their minds. And abortion is one good one. And also homosexual marriages is another one. That they have made up their minds because there are forces out there, donors, who said, if you want to get donor from us, want to get funds from us, you have to do this.
But this
And
is, this is an allegation, conspiracy theory.
But it's a fact. How do you explain that? No, how do you explain that?
I read a lot, but I haven't found facts on that.
Listen.
Maybe you have private private information that people like us don't have. You're
All right.
privileged. How do you comment on that, Mr. Duma? And quick comment, because
He
I want
doesn't
to...
support it also.
In fact, Brother
He doesn't
Chims-
support it. He has said before. He doesn't support abortion.
support it.
In fact, Brother Chims, I must just say, tell us that the audience that democracy is not a good concept all the time, because we are in a secular state as
Yes.
a country, but we are Christians, we are majority.
Mr.
All
Kenneth
the time
had
we must
corrected me
answer
earlier that we're not in a secular... We have a... How did you call it?
Constitutional democracy.
No, our country in terms of constitutions.
Yeah.
When you embrace almost all the religions, if you are apologetic, you are saying that we are secular, because we embrace almost everything. We are the majority. In most of, like for instance, go to Middle East, all those countries are clear that they go with what they believe in. If they're Arabic, then they'll be Muslim.
Yeah.
And they will deal. Christians are too apologetic.
So we don't
want
like to
embrace
speak out.
everything, which compromise our
So maybe
quality.
that is what's happening with the leaders that we have there. So maybe you're answering my question that what happens is that it's difficult to really come out.
But I think
Am I putting you on the spot?
He's polarizing the issue.
I'm going to take questions from the audience. I'll start with the lady at the end there.
Hi, Chim. I've got two questions, one for Mr. Duma and one for Dr. Kenneth. My first is on business, and I'm a business owner and run an NPO, and it's with a girls project for girls with giving them their basic necessities, which is a big project in the country at the moment. It's all about dignity, which we spoke about. I'm wanting to know how one in the business sector can get support from the government with such a important issue. And Mr. Kenneth, Dr. Kenneth, sorry, can I say that I love your tie? It is a Scottish tie, and I love your surname too. It's part of the shway shway, our African fabric, so you write it in my style today. So on education, I'm just wanting to know, my daughter has a finance degree and she's going on to study to be a teacher, yet she approached the UNISA to study, and they came back and said, sorry, we have enough teachers, there's no space for you to apply, which I found very daunting, seeing that South Africa, we desperately need education.
No, I think what he's asking is fundamental. I'm going to talk to a separate when we're done as well. There is a small business in South Africa where we are saying that those who are trying to mainstream, because the issue of SMMEs is what is driving our developmental strategy. Another component in terms of SETA, we've got something on, like for instance, if you are in a training of some sort, there is a funding, special funding that will be given, that you claim if you employ more people, because that's what we need. We are saying that we are creating an enabling environment. If we identify those who are useful enough, we work with them. But I'm also going to furnish more details separately. I'm going to give some other network.
Is there a website people can go to?
There are different websites of government in terms of because there is a ministry that deals with small business per se. There is grant funding. They will just give you whether go to NF, whether go to which funding and all those things. So there is that, and it is fluid enough, because in some instances we find that a government will appropriate, but they will take back that money because there were no candidates who were equipped enough to take that money. So the more the merrier.
Good. Do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, SU must be prepared to wait for months, if not years, to get that grant, because there is currently an investigation. There is currently an investigation of the Department of Small Business nationally, because there's been a lot of corruption, okay,
So
within the department.
that ill again trails this whole good.
Yeah, there's been a lot of corruption, and obviously priorities. People who access funds, according to our government now, people who need to be empowered are people who look like me more than people who look like you. That's a fact, okay? Because we have BBB, Black Economic Empowerment. So while you have to try, but you must be prepared to wait for months.
So what we're saying here is that it's available, it's possible. There might be bottlenecks and there might be bureaucratic, what do they call it now? The things you need to jump through. Red tapes to
Brother Chim, I
jump
think
through.
the doctor is planning the failure before we implement.
Yeah,
It's not
but
correct. As a Christian,
yeah.
with someone with faith,
He should have
you
faith.
can't- you
No,
cannot
he's not
plan
having
that
faith.
I'm
Okay,
going to faith.
now
It's
you
not
know what
correct.
we're going to do.
I differ with that.
What we're going to do is this.
mentality.
What we're going to do. No, what we're going to do is this. The problem
Where
with
is your
Dr.
faith?
Kenneth, the
Where is your faith?
problem with
Listen,
Dr. Kenneth is lack of
listen.
faith. So
Where
what
is
we're
your
going to do,
understanding of
since he's your
manifestation of the
father-in-law,
word of God?
No, he's your father-in-law, and you see he's lacking in that area. After this program, you draw him aside and you pray for him. We'll take the other question she asked. Please, Dr. Kenneth, you want to? No, or do I go to you?
No.
She's talking about her daughter. Prepared as an educator, but now there's this blockage.
All right. Now, one of the things that you can read in the papers, okay, is that people are complaining about the ratio between teacher and students. Many township schools have a very wide ratio, and as a result, individual children in the class do not get the attention they deserve. And when you ask the question, why are you not reducing the rate? They will tell you, we don't have sufficient teachers. So when I hear a person say, we have enough teachers, that's not the truth. That's not the truth. When we have enough teachers, there will be not one classroom in South Africa where one teacher has to teach more than 60 children.
So we don't have enough teachers yet. We're being told we can't get a space. Would it be resources that are not
No,
available?
for me, I think it will depend as well on subjects. You'll find that on the gateway subject, there is a scarcity of teachers. So we can always do something, but you will find that because of the systems as well, in terms of their quantum issue in terms of schooling, you'll find that she might be taken currently. You might find that she have to wait depending on the subject.
system. So
it's true. I agree that we don't have adequate of teachers.
No, for
We
sure, we
start-
don't.
Because
they-
our classes are too full.
They're too
there is-
full.
and-
So
but the
we
issue of
can't-
infrastructure as well.
Yeah.
It was really good, eh?
Yeah.
Really good. I'm just trying to. We have to land this somewhere. Wow, welcome back. That was quite an interview. I mean, two fervent believers yet coming from two sides. And you don't want to miss the second part of that interview because we go to even more controversial issues. Yet, to find how from different points of view we can find God's answers. Thank you. Now to round up, here is my word for today. It's from Isaiah 66 verse 9. It says, do I bring to the point of birth and not give delivery, says the Lord. Do I give delivery and close the womb, says your God. God is speaking here to people who feels that, God has given me something in my bosom. God has planted a vision. He has planted something in me. But when it's time to deliver it, I don't seem to be able to deliver it. Some of you watching us can be in that position where you've done everything you know you should do in obedience to God, and it seems as if you failed. It didn't bear the fruit, and you feel as if God has left you. God is speaking to us that He's not a God who frustrates us. He's not a God who gives us something in our womb, our spiritual womb to birth, and then He blocks it. He's not a God who calls you and then blocks you. He's not a God who gives you a word and then He doesn't bring it to pass. He said He is a God who is not just the one who impregnates you with a vision. He's also the midwife that makes sure that the thing is battered. So don't give up, my friend. If you're in a place where you feel as if you've tried your best, you've given all you should give, and it has come to nothing, I want to encourage you to know that it is not over yet. God, the midwife of the dream He gave you, will also bring it to pass. So don't give up. Don't give up on God. Don't give up on the vision He has given you. Instead, be faithful. If you have to wait, because sometimes we have to wait for God, because He will surely bring to birth the things He has put into you. That's all for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. I will be looking forward to us meeting again, same station, same time, to continue where we stopped today. God bless you. And remember to contact us. We want to hear from you. Bye-bye.
This program is made possible by the generous financial support of believers just like you, who share our heart to equip the African Church to engage the issues facing our continent. Your financial support will help us continue this important work. If you feel led to give to this ministry, please visit our website today.